Coming from these Philly streets, walking to my own beat, telling noisemakers I won't compete, cause I know I'm gonna be a beast. I go hard for what I want, I go hard for what I need.
What's up, y'all, and welcome back to another powerful episode of UBE TV, where we highlight purpose-driven entrepreneurs who are making an impact and pushing the culture forward. Today, I am sitting down with someone whose story and mission are sure to shift your mindset and motivate your movement. Born in Brooklyn, New York, and raised between Jamaica, Queens, and Northern New Jersey by Jamaican immigrant parents, DeVon Fyffe is not only a husband and a proud father of 6. Yes, I did say 6. But he's also the vice president and chief financial officer of Defynitive Solutions, Inc., a dynamic business consultant focused on helping small and mid-sized businesses gain access to funding and strategies that need to grow and sustain, y'all. So I know if y'all listening, them people with them businesses trying to get that funding, y'all better be listening and taking some notes, as he also, with his strong background in sales, finance, leadership, and operation, DeVon is leading the charge in driving growth and financial empowerment for entrepreneurs across the country, y'all. He's here today to share the challenge business owners face in this tech-heavy, unpredictable economy, but most importantly, he's bringing the solutions, y'all. So whether you're just getting started or trying to scale, I want y'all to stay locked in, because this episode is going to fuel your business and your belief. So let me go ahead and welcome Mr. DeVon Fyffe to the show. Hey, DeVon.
Hey, how you doing, Denise? Thanks for having me.
Thank you for coming on. I appreciate you so much.
Absolutely.
Now, let me just go ahead and welcome you to UBE LLC TV. I always love to kick things off with this, and tell us in your own words who you are behind the brand.
Yeah, absolutely. So, I mean, in my own words, I'm not going to use the term average, but I'm pretty much somebody that everybody knows, the type of individual, based on my background, based on where I come from, what I've been through in life, and just someone who's decided, to stay focused, right, and stay committed to a cause and to a purpose. I know all of that sounds very cliche, but I've applied those things at many, many different times in my life, and I've remained consistent, particularly over the last 10 to 12 years, and it's allowed us, to get to where we're at now.
Awesome. Now, that word that you shout out there, I know we hear that every day, that consistency. And that's one of the things that we all have to be when it comes into business, is being consistent. Like, it may not always push off the way we want it, but long as you stay consistent, it's going to drive for you. So now, growing up in Brooklyn and Jersey with Jamaican parents, already know I'm from up north too, and I had the Jamaicans in the family. So how has your upbringing influenced your entrepreneurial mindset?
Yeah, so my parents were, like I said, immigrants from Jamaica. They came here and basically worked really, really hard for every single thing that they wanted, right? But one of the things that always impacted me and stuck in my mind as a boy and a young man is that they always felt that they were still, kind of in a situation where they weren't really achieving the true goals and the rewards they were looking for out of life, even though they were very skilled, right? My father, was a computer engineer. And this is back in the 70s, right? He was a computer engineer, and my mother was a registered nurse, right? And then I was ultimately, from 10 years old, my mother got remarried, and I was raised by my stepdad, who was a hematologist. So I had a lot of solid people around me, and I saw the hard work, but I also saw a certain lack of fulfillment, right? Because they had to do that 9 to 5 and really help fulfill somebody else's dream.
That's fact. Now, right there, I just want to stop right there, because what you said, it kind of put a touch on a lot of us when it comes to we get stuck in the 9 to 5 mindset. We thinking that we can't come out of that shell. So now that you know and you saw that, tell us the moment you knew it was time to co-found Definite Solutions and what pushed you into the business funding specifically.
Yeah. So, I would say that, like I just mentioned, I always had in the back of my mind that, the way things were designed and what was considered run of the mill or how we were supposed to operate, there was something very flawed about it, right? Because people, whether they had a good job or just an average job, I saw the same levels of discontentment, right? Even for people that from where we were standing at were making a lot of money, right? But they were always kind of at the mercy of what that organization was going to do with them, right? Were they going to continue to allow them to earn that type of money so they can achieve the lifestyle that they have? And so now when I became of age and got out there in the world and started moving around myself and, working at different organizations, I kept running into that, right? So I was always very, very fortunate and able to kind of forge ahead and be a little bit ahead of the pack, right? And get things done and quick promotions and stuff like that. But it always came with this trade-off, right? Whether it was socially or politically, you had to follow some sort of suit. You had to follow some sort of line that may not have been what was in your heart. And that never sat well with me, So I would say probably around, and it took me a while, right? I was in the 9 to 5 corporate America, till I was about 42, right? I was in there, committed, but I would say I started turning the corner when I hit about 37, 38 years old is when I really recognized that, listen, I got to formulate some sort of exit strategy for this because now I'm living a lot of the downside of what I saw in my parents and other people around us that kind of gave away all their youth, right? They gave away all their younger years and worked till they were 67, 70 years old, just to make sure they got that pension intact or what have you. And I was just like, listen, that cannot be my story. Even though I'm at a certain age, I'm not like a spring chicken at 37, 38 years old. I felt like I was still young enough and I had enough energy to apply to create something of my own. So I came up with the company Defynitive Solutions, which first we set out as a marketing firm, right? So we were reaching out to small business owners and trying to help them navigate this, new age, so to speak, when it came to online presence, whether it was web design, content development, different systems and applications. We did everything along the marketing needs for small businesses. So we did that for a while and we had some great engagement and we had a lot of interest. We garnered a lot of attention. We started a lot of projects, but we kept running into a very similar issue. And the issue was that people weren't able to either start the project or finish the project out due to budgetary constraints, right? They were just hitting the wall with their finances. So we became resourceful and we found out, hey, there are secondary banks and other lending institutions that have less strict criteria, less stringent, restrictions on how they lend money and who they fund or finance. So we started referring our clients to those outfits and we were getting them the money that they could pay for our services. But as that avenue grew for us, we realized that, hey, a lot of these lenders and banks will actually pay what's called a referral fee, right? And so we created a whole additional revenue cycle within the business. Well, let me tell you, that referral fee actually started to pile up higher than the money that we were making in marketing. And it was way less work because all we were doing, we're engaging with these business owners, creating the relationships, identifying the areas of improvement, and tying that solution to capital, right? And so a lot of business owners, you know how it is in business in small America, which is the lifeblood of this country, right? A lot of people don't realize that about 80% of this economy is ran on small businesses, right? Primarily mom and pops, right? But anywhere from the 2 employees up to the 500 employees, right? That's what runs this country. And that's what really runs the world. So we were able to start, focusing on just, hey, those problems in general. So anybody, whether we were trying to market for them or not, if they were unable to get funding from their bank or their credit union or any typical, first level path that they would expect to get funding from, wasn't working, whether it was time and business reasons, current revenue, credit score, things like that, then we would present them with the options. And that's how we started our journey. So we started the business, like I said, as a marketing firm about 12 years ago, but we switched over into the funding, and basically we like to call it management consulting with an emphasis on finance. We switched that about 10 years ago.
That's awesome. And I know it's a lot of people, because I have a lot of clients who come to me because they're like, okay, I need you to work on my financials because I'm trying to get a loan, or, they're trying to get different things. But when it comes to the loans, I would say what seems to be the biggest, because I know a lot of times when it comes to businesses getting loans, and I know there's so many videos and different things that be out there when it comes to, oh, you can do this and get this much credit. How is it that someone can work with you and be able to get credit, even if they may have like a low credit score, or they may have started their business new? How can they work with you with that?
Yeah, I really appreciate you asking that question, because it's very relevant to this day and time. Because like you said, there's 100,000 people with, followers on social media, telling people anything like, hey, just get your EIN and, we can get you some funding to structure your entity this way or that way. And that's not an entire truth. I'm not saying anybody's deliberately misleading people, because I don't think that's the case. I think that they're just not as immersed in this industry as we are, right? And as experienced, so they really don't see the whole picture. So to answer your question, working with Defynitive Solutions, people are going to have the advantage of what I just talked about, experience, right? So we've ran the gamut with different types of businesses that need funding, but more importantly, we've also ran the gamut with the lenders that are out there and the options that are out there. It's sad to say, but the truth is that a lot of the options that are presented at the forefront for business owners, especially certain business owners like you and I, Denise, they tend to be like, predatory type lending situations. I'll just be honest with you. It's something you can get involved with, and it may seem good and it may satisfy something in the immediate terms. It'll be a Band-Aid, but in the long run, if you're not able to maintain and manage the payback, it can really destroy your business and even sometimes destroy your personal credit at the same time. So with Defynitive Solutions, when you partner with us, that's something that we tell you up front, right? We let you know that, our role is an advocate to you as the business owner. Yes, we work with banks. We work with secondary lenders and tertiary lenders, alternative finance companies. We work with them and we get paid by them. However, our passion, our drive comes from making sure that you succeed. So a lot of times when we first connect with business owners, Denise, they really don't love the conversation because I'm not telling them exactly what they want to hear, right? Because they're under the impression that this could be done really easily. All I got to do is get my EIN, start my business bank account, do it for a few months, and I'll be ready to roll. But that's not the truth. We have to make sure that we position your entity in order to get the best options, because there's going to be options for you, but are they going to make sense, right?
Right.
So, for instance, there's loans out there that people actually take, believe it or not, even though they don't use what's called a APR or a interest rate. They use a term called a factor rate, but it translates sometimes 29, 50. I've seen people take deals that were 125% interest when you do the calculations. If you're just getting your business started, or you don't know that you're going to get a lump sum to pay that loan back in a timely manner, you're setting yourself up for disaster. Because when you owe some of these lending entities, they're going to do their best to not only destroy your reputation, but they're going to come after you legally. And so you want to stay away from that. So, and I know I kind of went on a tangent, but to answer your question, we can help business owners by giving them the proper guidance up front, right? So if you do things the right way, you don't have to worry about the wrong thing. And that's what we specialize in, and that's what we help business owners achieve. Now, there's going to be different ways to do it for different people. That's why having the experience of your industry, your business's growth phase, where you're at right now, whether it's startup, fledgling, pre-revenue, whatever the situation may be, right? Or you may be an established business. You could be second, third generation business owner, and you're trying to expand or you're trying to pivot. We can help you with that too, because we've worked with all types of businesses. And like I said, we have the experiences. So we educate our clients that we partner with, and we also direct them to the best lending situation and the best loan providers to make that happen.
That's awesome. That is really, really awesome. Because I know a lot of people who struggle with that, and people are not always honest with them. They just want to try to, they just keep running information, running that credit, running different things, and then they end up lowering their scores because they keep allowing people to just run and not just keeping it real with them. So that's really good information that you educating people with that. Now, you've seen both new and seasoned business owners who may struggle in today's tech-driven and uncertainly economy. So, what's one mistake that some folks is making right now that you can say?
Yeah. One mistake that I think will kind of blanket, no matter the industry, no matter the business model, is not taking advantage of a lot of the free and low cost educational pieces that are out there in terms of getting tech savvy, right? Or if you're not, if you're a seasoned business owner and you may be at a certain stage of life and you don't really want to learn anything, you got to incorporate somebody into your business to help you with that, right? Because if you don't have an understanding of how the technology impacts your industry and impacts your business model, there's a good chance you're gonna be left behind very shortly from now. Things are moving very, very rapid, and if you want to sustain and maintain your position in your marketplace, you got to get ahead of the basic know-hows of all the technological advances that are going on, including like the big buzzword AI. Right, that's a very real thing, and the vast majority of businesses are going to be impacted one way or another. And people that are not doing their due diligence and not putting in the pieces to make sure that they get a basic understanding of how this works and how adding certain aspects of AI can actually enhance the business, they're going to kind of miss out and get, like I said, left behind.
Right. And that's so, when you talk about that, I'm just like, this is so crazy because just recently I was sitting here and I was like, you know what? I am sitting here like I'm an accountant. I'm doing business, I'm doing bookkeeping, I'm setting up businesses, I'm doing taxes, I'm doing all these things. However, we look back at things from 5 years prior, and we used to go to the store and like we look and we go on the markets and we saw there was one self checkout, and then there was the bunch of registers that you can go to and you had all the people working. Now 5 years later, you only see maybe one or two registers with people at them, and then all the registers where you doing self checkout. And I put a little thing last year around tax season. I put a little joke out there, and I was like, "Okay, Walmart, where's my W-2? Because I've been working for y'all, checking out my house." And so I'm like, it's so many things that are like turned off where it's like self. And so even with my industry, I started recently looking into AI, different tools to use, because I know businesses is all like in 5 years from now, I feel like in most industries, they're not going to be business. Like you're going to have to know some AI stuff in order to keep it going, because there's going to be so much out there that people can really honestly just do for themselves. So with capitalizing on that, how do you feel with your business that people with you, how can they still win as a small business within it?
Yeah, so let me tie that into one of the things you said earlier, Denise. So you were talking about people getting their credit ran all around the board and just bombing out their credit score, right, and making them basically not fundable by the time they find a lender that would have worked with them, right? They were like, yeah, your credit's shot, so we got to put you over here or do this. So at Definitive Solutions, we actually do pre-underwriting. We get a pre-qualification without even a soft credit pull, right? I can't give you the secret sauce as to how we do that, but we're able to do that. And so far, we have a 97.9% accuracy rating on our pre-qualification. And so that's all 100% AI driven.
Wow.
So that's one of the advantages people are going to have by partnering with a company like Definitive Solutions, right? So we're basically, I'm not going to say we're a tech company because we're not, but we are employing a lot of technology that allows us to keep an edge and, stay ahead of the curve when it comes to this particular industry.
That's good. That's really good. Because like I said, this thing's changing so much. And what you're doing, every small business owner need pretty much. Like it's not, I don't know too many business owners that don't need no money in their business, because they need it for everything from marketing to supplies to whatever, to paying their employees, so there's so many things that people need. Now, can you share a moment in your journey where you had to push through the doubt or difficulties?
Which one you want? I mean, I think we talked about consistency before. I think that's something that's constant, right? As a small business owner in America, right? There's always, tends to be some issue that arises that makes you have to take a different perspective at that time. But for me personally, just offhand, I remember there was one incident. Well, it really wasn't an incident; it was a series of events. But essentially, what happened is that we had a legal situation with one of the lenders we were doing business with, right? So we found out that they were not adherent to the contract and the agreement that we were in, and they were essentially, siphoning money from us using, various different ploys that we didn't have the transparency at that time to recognize that that was happening. It wasn't until we connected with another brokerage when they pointed out some things when we put our heads together and we were able to identify that. However, when we pulled the trigger and started to, we went through arbitration, didn't get anything done, so we went to full-blown legal action and sued them. We essentially got blackballed for almost an entire year. So we would have perfect files, meaning people that had pristine credit, great revenue, great business models, and we would send it to our lenders and expecting to get the response that we would get, we know we would get, and they would send back like, yeah, we're going to leave this one alone. We're not going to touch it. And when we would reach out for additional feedback on it, they never had any. So once we got to about the 17th lender where we had the same encounter, we realized that that was the situation. So my back was up against the wall at that time because, just like any other small business, right, we do a lot of upfront investment in our product, in our service, right? So we're under the gun to make this money back, right? And it's not happening because all of a sudden, I'm at the behest of these lenders that obviously have something against me because I made a move on them legally, and I had to figure a way out. So what I did is I got away from that lender circle, right? And it's forced me to basically put on my sales hat and my pitch deck and go see other lenders that were not in that sector. So I basically went to some smaller banks, pitched them directly on what I do. Their antennas were already up because they knew the secondary alternative financing market was huge. They knew that. They just didn't know how to get into it. So I was able to essentially consult them on how to structure a facet of their business to take on some secondary and alternative financing files. And that absolutely catapulted us right back up. And I never would have discovered that if I wasn't put in that position to try to figure it out.
Right. That's what I say a lot of times when it comes to learning off of things that may happen. We always take the bad moments, but sometimes those things that happen give you a life learning lesson. Those may, a lot of times to me, I feel like those be the best lessons when things happen that you don't, and it puts you in positions that not only teach you, but it makes you even wiser and stronger. So that's a plus. Now, I'm going to say, what do you say to people? Because I get this a lot of times, especially on like social media, when you start talking about business, sometimes people will be side-eyeing it like, I want to hear about that again. You'll see people, if you got a new job, you'll see 1 million likes. But when somebody starts talking about their business, it's like you may see 5, so, and then people get discouraged by that. So what would you say to somebody who was trying to start their business, but they were scared to really take that action and get started?
Yeah, my recommendation and my advice is that you have to ignore the noise. Everything that you just described, Denise, I go through it. My wife, we go through it to this day, right? And unfortunately, it's just one of the characterizations of human nature, right? Most people just aren't going to root for the person that is going against the so-called grain and trying to figure this out. I hate to use the cliche crabs in a barrel, but that's what it boils down to, right? They don't want you to get out of, where we're at, the 9-to-5 grind and having to clock in. They don't want you to get that level of freedom. They don't want you to succeed at it ultimately. So they're not going to show their support. And like you said, some people are even going to be what I call angry elves, right? So they're just not going to, they're going to make sure that they go out their way to throw as much salt as you as they possibly can. And they're just trying to defeat your spirit, You've heard the term, I'm not a religious person, but spiritual warfare is very real. I am an energetic person, and I do know that these things are real. So you have people that, since they can't come to your space and physically attack you, they'll try to make it their business and their mission to bring down your spirit and diffuse your energy so you can't achieve your goals. So anybody who's facing that, and like you said, most business owners, especially those like you and I that started, we did it from our own bootstraps, you just have to block out the noise. You just have to get that tough skin and say, no matter what I'm experiencing, I can feel and I can see exactly where I'm going, and I'm going to do everything that I need to do to get there. And you just got to go for it. You just got to put your life on the line, literally, right? Because what if you're wrong, right? And it doesn't pan out, then what happens? You suffer. If you got a family and they're depending on you, they can suffer. It's a lot of pressure. So it's easy to get deterred and say, you know what, let me get back in line and do what I got to do. And listen, I'm not knocking anybody who chooses to do that, because just like so many other positions in life, everything isn't for everybody. And entrepreneurship and business ownership is not for the faint of heart. I just made a post about that on LinkedIn, right? It's for the overcomers, right? It's for people that say, hey, you know what? I got punched in the face yesterday and I got punched in the face last week, but I still got to go out here and fight because that's what I do. I'm a fighter, and they're standing in between me and my goals. And you just have to be like that.
I love it. I love that. That need to be on the shirt. I like that. Now, what excites you the most about where your company is headed to right now?
Yeah. So what excites me the most is probably a fun fact that I just learned the other day. It was actually from Forbes, where they were pointing out that the alternative funding space in 2025 is actually beginning to eclipse the traditional bank lending space. Now that's huge. So that means that there's more capital being infused into the alternative lending space than banks are able to give out business loans or, approve people for business loans. So to me, that means that the future is wide open for people that are in my industry and in my role.
That's great. That is really great. Now, if someone's watching this and thinking about starting their business today, what would you say would be the best time to start?
The best time is when you are convinced that the business is what you want, right? When I say that the business is what you want, you've come to the honest conclusion and the firm decision that you want the freedom, the flexibility, and the control over your life. It's not that you want the money, right? It's good to have the money goal. You want to make $1 million next year. That's wonderful, but that's not going to get you there, right? So you got to know that you are fully committed and you are fully on board, and that you are your biggest supporter and your biggest advocate, right? So once you have that feeling, it's not just about trying to escape something or do something different or make all the money in the world. It's about, hey, I want to take back as much control over my life as I possibly can, at the same time solving problems and helping people, whatever that might mean to you.
True. Y'all heard it, right? Y'all know y'all heard it. Now tell everybody how they can reach out to you so they can on any type of social media platform, numbers, emails, websites, let them know where they can reach you.
Yeah, absolutely. So again, our company is Defynitive Solutions, right? But it's spelled differently. It's DEFYNITVE, right? So, and it's Solutions Inc. And they can reach us at our website, which is Defynitive, just the way I spelled it, .money. They can also find us on most of the socials. We're on Facebook at Defynitive Solutions, Instagram at Defynitive Solutions. We're on X at Defynitive Solutions. Where else? We're at LinkedIn at Defynitive Solutions. And anybody can find my personal profile, which is open across all of those platforms as well. Or if you want to pick up the phone, you're an old-fashioned guy like me and want to have a conversation so I can hear and feel exactly what you're saying. And if it makes sense and if it's what I need, then you could call me directly. Our office number is 678-632-1236. You can also send a text message. If you want to email us, you can reach us at business@defynitive.money.
Whew. Thank you so much for that. I know so many people are writing down, get information, but I'm definitely going to make sure I put it down there But this has been a whole word, especially given these gems that you gave. So, Devin, I want to say thank you so much for sharing your journey, your gems, and your genuine passion for helping entrepreneurs getting funding and support they need. Because trust me, we all need it. And to
Right.
everyone watching or listening, I hope you caught the key. Stop talking, start doing. There's no perfect time, there's only now. Listen, y'all, whatever you put your mind to, it is rooted in your passion. It is possible. And when you lean into it, it will absolutely become your purpose. So go be great and make sure that you go and follow Devin and connect with him at Definite Solutions. And then you also, again, www.defynitive.money on his website. And don't forget to like, comment, and share, and subscribe to UBELLC TV. Until next time, stay aligned, stay authentic, and stay on your assignment. Bye bye.